What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lost Holocron podcast. For the last time, we are talking the Acolyte. Very sad. I am your host, Didge, and with me, as always, is the homie Jamie. Jamie, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I actually just ate and I drank a lot of water, so I'm feeling like a little you know,
Oh no! If you see me reach off to my water jug,
feeling a little like Jabba the Hutt, I guess you could say, like in it to Star Wars.
oh no!
um, but outside of that, I'm happy to be here. It's been quite a journey with this show, so I'm ready to kind of break it down for you guys.
It has. I know I was talking to someone. I think it was on Discord. I can't remember exactly, but we were just talking about the Acolyte in general and like how there have been a lot of ups and downs with the show. Like it had some really cool stuff. It had some moments that had us shaking our head and like questioning how did we get here.
Yeah.
But it's the nature of anything. We'll definitely get into that more deeply later in the show. But first we have to talk about episode 7. Honestly, the way we kind of did this show is we did it 2 episodes at a time, so this kind of worked out. Um
The power of
Episode 7. Let's just go there. I'll let you start it off. What were your thoughts on episode 7? And I know how you're actually, take us to what your initial thoughts was. I know we watched it together, but tell me your initial thoughts for the audience. And then did episode 8 change that at all? I think that's probably the
um
way we should attack this.
okay. So my initial thoughts for episode 7. I feel like out of everybody else's opinions that I was looking at on Discord, I was probably the most favorable of the episode. That being said, I was still disappointed with the episode. We get Soul's perspective of what happened on Brendok. That's the planet, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I remembered it for the very last pod. Let's go. We get Soul's perspective of what happened on Brendok when the Witch Coven kind of like went up in smoke. And we, in my opinion, I feel like we learned a little bit, even if it wasn't like we learned about specific actions that people did. We learned about people's perspectives during the events that we have already seen. And to me, that's like, helping you get a little bit more into like Soul's head and Andara's head.
Indara, yeah.
Look at me.
Locking in for that last episode.
Exactly. I know. Just wait till I mess up. I'm gonna forget somebody. But learning a little bit more about them, where their headspace was, and kind of also, I guess, further contextualizing their relationship to like the Jedi Council. I don't think they really did. They talk much about the Senate, or it was really just about like the Jedi Council.
It was more so like the council because they know that once you talk to the overall council, the Senate is going to inevitably get involved.
Yeah,
So they were kind of one entity for this.
yeah. Um, So yeah, we got to see more or learn more about people's perspectives during those events, and we did get some brand new information as far as Soul actually did kill. Oh my God, I don't know her name. I don't think I ever really knew her name. I'm not gonna lie. I keep calling her the Black Mother.
Oh no,
Um,
Mother Anasea.
Odyssea, yeah, that one was not locked at all. Not at all. But yeah, we learned that Soul did indeed kill Anastasia. Anastasia was not killed in the fire. We also learned that Coral, I I'm not 100% sure what happened with her. I want to say that when she was controlling Kilnaka with the help of the other witches, and uh oh my gosh, now I'm losing it. Andara like dispelled her possession. I feel
Hmm.
like she died in that moment because she never reformed. If she did reform, she reformed somewhere else, which why would she do that? I don't know. And then all the other witches died. Well, they seem to have died. If they didn't die in that moment, they died in the fire. But not completely sure what happened with Coral. Uh, And then we also saw that Torben, he really, really, really wanted to get off the planet. And I don't know, I don't fully understand that behavior, I guess, like the behavior that he was having, because it almost seemed like he was fearful that something was happening on the planet or something. He just like really wanted to go home instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm so bored. Like, why can't we just go back to Coruscant? I'm still not fully understanding what that was. So
Well,
to
like
me, it feels
initially,
forced, but
fair.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, initially, I know in that episode, and don't take this from me caping for this episode. We'll get into my thoughts later. I did not like this episode at all, but initially he was definitely like, I want to go back home. Like it seemed like whatever mission, I think it was always on Brindok, but they had been there for a while. Like that
Yeah.
was sort of what I had got, and so like he already wanted to go home, and I feel like the possession was sort of like one, she was playing on his want to go home, but also he just got possessed. He like, hey, get me as far away from all of this as I can. Get me out of here.
That is fair. But then the issue with that line of thinking is then he was very eager to then go back to the witch coven to a I I don't know what was his goal with that. Was he trying to kill them or was he just
He bought into Soul saying that those girls are in trouble, that they need to get away from there. And I feel like that goes along with his line of thinking. Like, yes, I still do think he's like, I do get me away from all of this.
yeah.
But also, as as a Jedi, they do still have the sense of we have to protect the unprotected. And that was prior to him realizing, I think, because they're feeling this big power in the force. I
Yeah.
think at the time they might have already known it was the girls, but if not, he could have also been thinking, this, whatever this power is, those girls are clearly unsafe. They already got in my head, played on all of this. What are they doing to those little girls? So I think he was definitely still wanting to get out of there, but like, we need to still eliminate this threat first, because that can't allow to just be there in the galaxy.
I have to relook. I don't remember him being so um I guess really saying or mentioning the girls in his line of thinking when he went to the base. It
No, I
kind of
think he was
seemed
just
like,
following Soul at that point.
well, Soul followed him because Torben
That's right,
left.
he went first.
Yeah, and then oh my god, I was about to call her and say it. And Dara was like, go get him.
That's
And then
right.
Soul was like, oh, this is the chance for me to also go get the girls while I'm there. So I don't remember why he left.
The Virgins. That's right. That's the whole reason they were on the planet.
Yeah.
They were there, so he had proof. He can't just go back and say there's a Virgins on Brindok. You take the girls, which I guess obviously I'm mistaken that, but he's like, if I take them, I have proof of the Virgins on this planet. So it
Yeah.
was after they knew their power, knew all of like how their ties to the Force. He needed proof, and the proof is the only way he can go home.
Yeah. Um. So, and those scenes, we got a lot of like new information, but was it worth the? I don't even know if it was 30 minutes of episode that
I
we
think it was
got
like
for the
35. Yeah.
the 5 out of the 35 minutes that we needed to explain that. Like, I don't know. It was a very weird choice to essentially give us episode 3 again with like
Mm-hmm.
a cherry on top, you could say. And then going into how this reflected having seen episode 8, I still don't understand why they made that choice. I think it would have made more sense to maybe hold on to a lot of the information that we got from episode 3, then put that into episode 7, and then 8 to have like the big revelation of what happened. Or even like, instead of taking all the information, you could even cut some of that information out. So that way, when Soul was explaining like what happened in his perspective, you could then flash to those scenes, and have like a greater realization in the moment instead of. I feel like for most of the episode for me, which is interesting because I feel like I didn't like episode 8 as much as other people in the Discord did, or it was kind of a flip flop. But for me, I was like, he's kind of explaining things that we, the audience, already know. And that's the tough part of having, I guess, a mystery for the audience and a mystery for the characters. Because, like, if we already know, and then he's telling the characters in universe about these things and they're acting surprised, we're all looking at him like, girl, how did you, come on, like, you should have put this
Fair.
together. So that's where I was with episode 8. I still thought that the fights are really cool.
Episode 8 or 7?
I I was
You went
talking
you
about
went
eight
into
of
8.
them, but
Okay.
no, yeah, that to go back on topic.
I mean, we're
I
getting into
don't
8
feel
right
like
after this. It's not a huge
yeah,
deal.
yeah. I just realized I was like, yeah, let me stop. But yeah, I don't think that episode 7 was a good choice going into 8. Even with the, I guess, hindsight. So yeah, that's me.
No, I think I agree with you. Obviously, we all watched it together. It's a shame that AJ couldn't be here with us, but I think we all had the very same thoughts of, did we really need this? And I think even after watching 8, I even more so felt like we didn't, to the point that you brought up about Soul basically telling everybody again what happened. Like, granted, they didn't show it in full. Like,
Yeah.
they just sort of, they sort of went to the main point of that he killed their mother,
Hmm.
which was, I feel like, supposed to be the biggest mystery out of all of that. At least in universe. Like, that was the thing that May made sure that she wanted to let Osha know, like,
Yeah.
it wasn't my fault, essentially, because, like, yeah, she started the fire, but no, this all happened because this man killed our mother. And I feel like you could have just made an expanded episode 8, essentially. So let's knock this down to 7 episodes. Um and you can have these as flashbacks rather than an entire flashback episode. You go through and you have different moments where, as the story is needed, I guess, that's when you go to, like, show that flashback. Like, you can have you get the reveal of, like, yeah, I killed your mother, and then you boom, you flashback, you show that whole scene from Soul's point of view. And you're still getting the same thing, but I feel like audience won't feel cheated and be like, you gave me the same episode twice because you
Hmm.
wanted to bump up this episode count, it feels like. And we've talked at length about how Disney Plus shows, they are already way too short. They already
Yeah.
feel like little movies that are improperly cut.
Yeah.
And this was just kind of really emblematic of that, because it does feel like with episode 7 that they were like, we have this benchmark of episodes we want to hit. Our story isn't long enough that we feel comfortable with having 8 completely different episodes. So let's take an episode and show a perspective change. And that's another episode. And like I said, I just felt like it was really a disservice, and especially to do it right before your final episode, it kind of felt lazy. So that's definitely where I was at. I like I said, I think we were most people who we talked with, they were all along the same pages of, like, was episode 7 really needed? We could have did so much better.
Yeah.
But then they did, obviously, that wasn't it. So we'll definitely jump right into episode 8. I feel like it's a natural progression. You said you were not as hyped as everyone else. I'm curious to know why.
Yeah, I feel like and it kind of goes back to my point earlier of them wanting to, or at least a lot of people, including myself, has perceived this of them wanting to build out this like mysterious show, or like
Mm-hmm.
they'll reveal like information that further builds onto this greater mystery. I think as a series, like this greater mystery, whatever they're trying to build up to, is like almost completely lost. Anything that they tried to make mysterious was immediately unmysterious in like the next 20 minutes. um and with 8 and like Osha learning that Soul killed Anastasia, I'm like, yeah, he did. That happened. We saw that last episode. This isn't necessarily like a revelation for me. Um and kind of, I don't know, it tainted the way that I saw that episode, as far as May like trying to give her like this piece of like truth and telling her like all the Jedi like brainwashed you or whatever. I was really thinking that Osha could have been under some like spell, and it was going to be dispelled in episode 8, and that's when she would like, I don't know, like get real memories or something and remember what had actually happened as if she had witnessed that. um so to hear that no, she was just, you know, didn't want to believe that Soul is capable of doing like something like that, or I guess wasn't even aware of what Soul had done, and learns this truth and immediately just like kills him. I'm like, I don't know. It didn't feel like it all came together well for me. Um, but I guess looking at this episode as a whole, other things that I feel like didn't really come together well. So, Osha and Q are given some like interesting vibes, I guess. And and then they're like, Q's like, well, you know, if I find May first, or if I find Soul first, then like you can do whatever, blah blah. So I guess they're like racing to find Soul, and then May and Soul are kind of fighting. They crash, and then they land somehow close enough to the old witch coven, so they can have this like battle of the memories, emotions kind of thing. Uh, it felt, I guess, too convenient. I don't know, for everything to have all like come together at that one spot. It felt very, I guess, Hollywood to me, which that's fine, I guess. I just wanted a little bit more or something different. Um, I did enjoy the fights. I thought the fights were fun. That's something that they've done really well throughout this entire season. Osha fighting with May, I thought was interesting. It was legitimately a mirror match. I can't remember if one actually definitively won over the other, or something happened where they both just had their attention drawn elsewhere. Um, I don't remember where Q went off to actually, or was Q fighting Soul the whole time? Yeah, Q
Yeah,
might
they
have
were
fighting
fighting
Soul.
Soul, and then when the Osha basically stops the. Well, I think May technically stopped the fight. I think she was the one that disarmed. Like once Soul had disarmed Khmer,
Yeah,
I think that's when May. Because remember, his lightsaber got thrown. Like they kind of like you said. I think it was kind of like a draw. But then
yeah.
before they picked up anything, May popped up, and like that's when she had Soul's lightsaber.
Mhm.
There was that whole thing, and then that's sort of when the reveal came. That's when Osha, popped up and did all of her stuff. But
Yeah.
while all that was happening, Khmer was definitely still just standing there. He only disappeared when um all of the Jedi, when they got there, like when Vernestra Rowe and all of her crew showed up.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. There was like a gap where like I'm like, actually, where did he go? But I will say the shining moments for this episode for me, definitely when May is talking to Osha. I think before they actually start fighting, and saying like, you know, the Jedi are the ones that like made you this way, to be so emotional and um like kind of all over the place, which is very true. Like that's exactly what happened, and that's why I think Q is able to kind of, she was able to sympathize with Q a little bit more because she was so emotional and like letting I guess some of the darkness come in. I really liked that moment or that conversation, and I also really liked when they bled the crystal, even though,
Osha, that was Osha. She was the one
or
that.
sorry, Osha, yes, Osha. Um, even though I don't disagree with her killing Soul, but I'm also, it's interesting because now the roles have flipped, and I was actually telling Leo this in the Discord, where I feel like Osha became May and May became Osha in a way. Um, because OSHA felt like she was very irritable and like quick to like just react to something. And her first like she just choked Soul out, right? She didn't hit him with a
Mm-hmm.
lightsaber. Yeah, for her to kill Soul in that way, who she had been saying all season, like, "Oh, it's my old Jedi master. We're so cool. I would do anything for him," and then just like choke him out like that was a really big shock to me. And
Really, I'm interested in that.
yeah, because I feel like did I expect Soul to die by the end of the episode? Not necessarily, but I wouldn't have been too surprised by it. But the way that he died, um, I don't know if I would necessarily say that I didn't think Osha was capable of it, but it just didn't feel right to me, I guess. At least with the amount of time that we had for her to be like, oh, Q kidnapped me. Like, I'm a Jedi. I would never do these things. I would never go to the dark side. Let me put on this helmet. Whoa, that was crazy. Oh my gosh, you're kind of hot. All right, I'm gonna kill Soul. I'm like, that all happened kind
I
of
feel
fast for
like
me.
I feel like it wasn't the helmet or any of that. It's this is the person that killed your mom. You let me live this lie for 16 years, and all of a sudden I'm at the height of my rage, my all of this, and you just dumped that. Oh, actually, I killed your mom, and I lied for all this time. I feel like that's sort of enough that somebody and not in their right mind is just going to give in to that anger.
That's fair. I yeah, that's true. I could definitely see that. I'm just like with the relationship that they have and also Soul's kind of he didn't really help himself with what he was saying as far as I don't think he ever said like he didn't mean to do it or anything.
No,
It's
because
just
his whole and I think yeah, I
like
feel like that's the other part of it is like he never really he felt remorse in the sense of like, damn, yeah, I killed her, but also kind of not because he's like, you guys were still in danger. I was just saving. It's like the remorse of his remorse was, I'm sorry it came to that,
yeah,
but I don't regret that it happened.
yeah,
Like in a sense of if it was gonna come to like I knew you guys were in danger, I knew I needed to get you away from that danger. It was more so I'm sorry May had to see it, if anything.
yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Um, that does make me. I can definitely see how she would get pushed to that point. It still feels a little bit weird to me, but I can see it.
That's fair.
Um, yeah, but the bleeding the crystal thing was pretty cool to see. I know, I believe you said that it had never been done in like live action before. I don't know if it's ever been done. Was it been done in animation before? That was like legitimately the first time.
So
Or
it's been done in animation and then also in comics.
okay,
But like to see in like even the opposite, I think that might have been in the Discord where Leo was talking about now we need to see the purification. Like that's also been done.
is that a thing?
Yeah, that's how Ahsoka has the white lightsabers.
Oh, interesting. So I thought you get white lightsabers when you're like you're not, or is that gray?
So technically in canon there's no such thing as a gray Jedi. It's sort of like that terminology itself.
Yeah.
It's more of like a fan term,
Oh, I see.
but in a sense, there are Jedi who like just don't follow the Jedi order. But like I said, in
So
terms of canon, it hasn't been
I guess to kind of go slightly off topic,
sure.
what does it mean to then purify your kyber crystal?
So essentially, so to turn it red, because essentially what she did is she did it with red lightsabers.
Yeah,
Well, I think one of them was red. I'd have to go back and double check. But so to bleed your kyber crystal, you're essentially pouring negative emotion into it, hate, pain, rage, anger, all this stuff. You're pouring like heavy emotion into it, which
yeah,
is like when I was telling you and Trayvon, it's typically done in the aftermath or during doing like some really negative stuff, like killing somebody, doing whatever. Purification would essentially just be the opposite, or you're letting go. It's essentially like you're embodying truly just being one with the force, almost like you're. So you I I don't remember how it was done in animation, like how it looked, but you figure it's essentially almost the same as the way that they showed it here, where the crystal would flicker into white, and then it's almost like it's pure force. I guess is probably the best way to say it.
So, could you bleed your crystal and then purify your crystal?
It depends on how that would depend on you, I guess. Like, because you're assuming when you're assuming if you bled your crystal, you fell into your negative emotions.
Mm,
Most people don't come back from that. At least from
mm,
what we've seen in Star Wars. Most
mhm,
people, when they fall to their negative emotions, like I don't know if Episode 6 Vader, when he quote unquote redeemed himself, would have been able to eventually go back and unbleed his crystals and purify them.
mm. So, what you're saying is Star Wars doesn't believe in rehabilitation. What's done is done. You're stained. Interesting. I didn't know that purification was honestly, before I started talking to you and AJ, I didn't know bleeding your crystal was a thing. I thought you just got a red lightsaber. You got a red crystal and that
No,
was it.
yeah, I'm trying to like. I think it was. Ooh, it might have been Visions where you saw it. Like I don't even think it was Clone Wars or anything.
Mm,
Because I think the Ahsoka one was in a comic book, if I remember correctly. So like, even because yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Visions.
okay. I feel like thinking about how they make lightsabers at Disney World really messed me up on the actual Star Wars
Oh, could you
movie.
just pick up the one?
Yeah, you're like, I want to be blue or I want to be red. I
So
thought that's how it was. I was like,
nah,
oh, that's
to be
cool.
fair, with the other ones, with the other colors, you are kinda
Oh,
you
okay. It's
kinda
close
there.
up there.
There's yeah, I would have to look it up to be sure.
That's funny.
But no, you the red ones, you don't just go like, all right, feeling evil. Evil is clearly all
Yeah.
like
Let
once
me
you
go to the black market, buy some red kyber crystals.
that'd be funny.
Oh, wow. That's great. I don't know where I was with all this. But yeah, overall, I feel like as I start to think about eight and like obviously have these discussions with Didge and other people, I can start to see why they enjoyed eight a little bit more. I feel like the other thing for me that makes me a little bit disappointed with the finale, and I feel like I said this a bunch of times in this episode alone, but I really enjoy like kind of mystery series and being able to like put the pieces together. And the fact that this episode, I don't think it really had any big revelations. Like those, if any, were probably in like episode 7, I guess you could say. Um, so for it to not have like a big revelation or um something where like my perspective has changed instead of like changing the perspective of the characters, that was another thing that I wish I could have had. But just looking at the show for what it is, I did enjoy it, and I'm glad that we've kind of escaped the Skywalker saga with this show. I hope that they continue it. Um, OSHA and Q being a thing is that's another thing that feels very sudden to me.
That's yeah, that was
Um,
a little much.
it
I'm not
feels
gonna hold you.
like there were signs, but it didn't feel like it made sense to do in the moment.
Hmm.
So why they decided to keep going with it is interesting. I'm not necessarily against it. I'm just like, if I got kidnapped by a dude, even if he was like hot, it's not it's probably not gonna happen. Like,
I
I don't know.
get you. No, I think think you brought up a lot of good points about some of the drawbacks of episode 8. I feel like what I enjoyed about it was that it was a true resolution, like, and it was enough to give you
Yeah.
what you like, some, I guess, breadcrumbs for a second season.
Mhm.
Obviously we talked about there that we saw. Actually, I don't think we brought it up on air, but we know that Darth Plagueis was in the cave, kind of in the cut, looking like, damn, there's a lot of shit going on.
Which was okay. That was another thing. I know you were excited for this. It felt like a very random shot to me. I'm not gonna lie.
So,
like just one shot of him, just like that. I don't know.
so
That
the shot itself it was interesting, but I think it does play into sort of, and when we talk about that more when we get to sort of how did our predictions end up of somebody planning the grand scale.
Yeah,
Just
I like what it meant, but just watching it happen.
Yeah, the shot
what?
itself was an interesting one. I feel like it was definitely thrown in there to, like, there is more to this story. This isn't the very end of this story.
Yeah.
And I that's where I think I like the most is that I'm like, okay, I can sort of see the vision.
Mhm.
And I like what the vision is. One of the things I wanted to talk about from what you were talking about, and it goes into maybe why I have a different feeling on episode 8 and maybe the season overall, was that very much from the editing of like the trailer. And I tried to go back and see if people have specifically said, like, people who actually worked on the show, but we were very much given the vibe of this is a mystery.
Mhm.
But
And see, that's another thing. I only watched, I think, the first trailer. I didn't
so
watch
yeah, so I watched the first trailer and then the one that they showed at the release party, the one when we were in New York. They showed a second trailer there. But everything that I've seen, just when you talk to like the showrunner, even the movies and stuff that they took inspiration from and stuff, has been along the lines of they wanted to answer the question, how did we get to a point in episode 1 where a Sith Lord could infiltrate the entire Senate, the entire Jedi Order, and the Jedi never knew? How did we get to that point where they were
They were
just
all
so
evil to
blind?
begin with.
But
There you go.
no, I don't think that's the case.
That's
But
exactly what he's saying.
I don't think that that's the case. But I feel like, so if we're taking that question of how did we get to the point where no Jedi picked up on the fact that a Sith Lord infiltrated the Senate, like, how did they fall that far? That paints this series in a completely different light. I don't know if this series
actually.
like, I don't think that this was supposed to be a mystery series. This was supposed to sort of show the arrogance of the Jedi, sort of show that even in this supposed bastion of light, they're doing some real dirty stuff. They're coming across planets where they can't explain something, so they immediately call it a threat. They're going, they're holding covert missions and not telling the overall order. So much stuff is happening that it makes sense that, 100 years, 150 years down the line, y'all got so used to holding secrets that something really major didn't go through this entire chain of command, and now we're in this really messed up situation. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I had saw it. Granted, I did see it after we had watched all 8, but it's sort of, when you look back over the series overall, it starts to make more sense that way. I kind of think that the way that the editing was done for the trailer, it kind of did it a little bit of a disservice, because we were having questions every week of, well, this mystery doesn't make a lot of sense. How did this come about? And when you look at it using a different lens, it makes more sense.
Yeah,
so
it does. That's really unfortunate then that I had that perspective.
It is. So before we get into our favorite moments, because in this little area underneath our name, I think I'm going to put our actual star ratings. Ooh. What are you giving this season overall?
What's your rating scale? Is that a 5 out of 10?
Out of 5, yeah. So what we usually do on most of our other reviews, and I just forgot to do it on our last one, is their eagle wings. Obviously, the whole Geekset logo. So up to 5 eagle wings.
Okay. Well, I would give it 4 eagle wings out of 5, or 4 eagles if you'd like to say. Or no,
Yeah,
2,
for eagles though.
2
For
eagles.
the way that the way that the wing logo is set up, it does end up being 4 eagles. So I get what you mean.
Oh, okay, 4 eagles then.
Interesting.
Yeah, I still actually wait, hold on. No, yeah, I'll give it 4. And I feel like given this new information of what like the series is supposed to be getting at, I'm like, okay, I kind of see like where they were trying to go. Do I think they did that idea successfully? Not necessarily, but it was more successful than the mystery idea.
That's
So
fair.
and I do think that there's a lot of like interesting lore as far as just like expanding the Star Wars universe, especially when it comes to the different Force abilities, and even with the final episode on being able to see like someone bleed a crystal for the first time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of benefit that Star Wars fans get out of this, even if they didn't like the series of events that kind of happened to get there. So yeah, I would give this a 4 out of 5. I liked it. I liked it.
You were more generous than I am. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
Oh,
I enjoyed the series a lot. I honestly probably would have gave it a 4 out of 5 if I hadn't came across that quote about what they were trying what she was
interesting.
trying to do with the series.
So the quote made me put it up, and you put it down.
No, because I enjoyed the series. Now, I also did they have a lot of mystery in it for so if I were looking at it as a mystery series, I'm like, they had a lot of mystery. The mystery was a little too easy at points, but I
Yeah,
can't knock you majorly for that. Hearing that Leslie, I want to make sure I say her name. I just been saying they this entire time because I also didn't know how she was pronouncing Leslie in this first name. It's spelled differently. So I was
oh,
like, what if I say Leslie and it's like it's spelled Leslye? And I'm like, what if that's not Leslie?
uh,
Um,
Leslie, I guess.
I'm I'm sorry if I got her name wrong, but if I
Leslie.
wouldn't have saw her quote, I think I would have, like I said, it was still a mystery that was granted a little too easy, but it had a
Yeah,
lot of mystery.
yeah,
But hearing that she wanted to showcase sort of a how did we get here, I felt like then the message of the show and the editing to sort of or like the presentation of it was kind of muddled
yeah.
because I feel like that's what knocked it another half point off. Is just like
Mhm.
your presentation and your messaging didn't really align, and it relied on me finding this outside information after the fact in order
Yeah.
to understand it fully.
Yeah, with the information you shared, I feel like they either should have leaned into Osha's identity as a Jedi or a past Jedi more,
Mm-hmm.
or Soul should have just been the main character from the beginning. Because Soul is very present in the series anyway,
Yeah.
so I think that that also could have like helped make a more natural way to pull back some of these curtains and say like, okay, we don't want to take this to the Jedi Council, so what do we do about it? Blah blah. And have more of those moments. Um, yeah, I'm curious what the thought process was there. And I don't know if there's any additional interviews or anything, but
I don't know. I was gonna take a look. I didn't get a chance to look for too many more beyond this. So much is all now that it's come out. It's just about like, oh, is it going to get a season two? Where are we
yeah.
going from there and stuff like that. So I'm really interested in seeing if they continue the story, how that's gonna go.
Yeah, I would like to ask, do you think that this is going to get a season 2? Because, there's been a lot of mixed opinions out there, some for the right reasons, a lot for weird reasons. Um, but I guess, do you think Star Wars is too big to fail? Or do you think would you think this story warrants a season 2?
So that was actually our last point. Do you want to go into that right now, or do you want to talk? I feel like we talked a lot of our favorite moments throughout this,
Um, let's
but
see, if
were
I
there
had to
any
pinpoint a
like
favorite moment.
particular?
I could pick a favorite moment. You know what comes like
Yeah,
comes to
I'll
the
let you
top of my
hear.
mind.
I'll let you think about it for a second because I can go right into mine. I had mine already
Yeah.
queued up, and it was this episode with the bleeding of the Kyber crystal. It's exactly like I told you and Trayvon when we were talking about it right after the episode. It was something that was so cool to see in the comics and stuff like that, and just like I never thought that we would see it live action, just because I didn't think that they would care to show something like that, like a show, like in a show or anything. Like, so to actually see it and for it to be done at such a heightened moment, like I know you were saying you didn't understand why she would want to kill Soul after hearing that. I
Yeah, at least
immediately
not
under
immediately. Like, I feel like if I was in that situation, I might take a step back for a little bit. Be like, hold
see
on.
see I think that's why I felt her, because immediately I was like, all right, no, he has to die. Like,
Yeah.
six, lying to me for 16 years, I'm bleeding my crystal too. Like,
See, but
you gotta go.
that's like if your father told you that he killed your mother, even though Soul's not her father, but a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
That's why for me, it would give me pause. Like, would he have to die at the end of the day? Maybe, but I'm not doing it right there. I might give him like a forced slap,
See, the only thing that would give the pause is to understand the why. But presumably he heard her talking about it. Like she heard him, because he
Yeah,
was trying to still explain it to May before he knew that Osha was there, why it was an accident but why he needed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So after, I have nothing else I need to say to you. You told me why. It's still a very bad reason. You gotta go.
I don't know. I'm kind of a processor / sometimes a freezer, so I don't think I would do it immediately.
That's fair. I get you. No, but I thought it was the right moment to do it, and I liked how they did it, especially the way how it was sort of flickering back and forth. Just because it's showing like I guess you're not still fully in control when you're in that moment of like deep emotional pain or rage or whatever type of negative emotion you have. You're sort of still trying to like kind of fight it, and I feel like that's sort of what it was showing.
Oh, the Kyber crystal?
Yeah, like you're still kind of trying to fight, like not completely falling to your emotions. And especially somebody who's spent time with the Jedi Order, I'm sure they presumably have taught them about how. No, actually, matter of fact, she was kicked out of the Jedi because she couldn't control her emotion. So in this moment, her trying to control her emotion, I feel like that's why it was flickering, and that just made it even more cool. And like just to see it, like the blade literally bleed from red to blue.
All right, another slightly off-topic question.
Sure.
Do you feel like you can be in the process of bleeding your crystal and then stop it, be like, "Oh damn, I'm going too far," or
I don't know?
Because for me, because you were saying how, and I don't know if it could have been like a dramatization for like TV or whatever, like it was kind of like the back and forth of the Kyber crystal, like going from, was it green to, well, I
Blue.
think it was white.
Blue to red.
I feel like it was like kind of whitish when it was turning, and then it went full red. Either way, it was changing colors. It was going back.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of pictured it as like if you had Kool-Aid and you dropped it on a paper towel and you see it just like slowly soaking it. I don't know why this worked with me on the analogy.
Were you just watching like a bounty commercial?
No, this work. You see it like slowly start to spread across the cloth and dye it. That's how I was seeing it. Not so much as a battle, it's just like it's slowly starting to spread. But yeah, do you think you could like be like, whoa, going too far and stop it?
I feel like you would have to have a very, very tight grasp on your emotions to do that. Is it outside of the realm of possibility? Maybe.
Do you think then? Because I don't fully know how like the bleeding process works. Because if you have to be holding your lightsaber and somebody maybe knocks their lightsaber out of your hand, is that not the bleeding process? Or is it like a link where it just keeps going?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for you.
See, these are the questions I need.
I want to say that I want to say no, like because it's not. I'm trying because every instance. Let's see, was Vader holding? Vader was definitely holding the crystal. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good,
You gotta
I'm
call
pretty
it George
sure.
Lucas.
I'm almost positive that it probably still will
Yeah,
because I feel like it's more so emblematic of your falling to your emotions.
yeah. And I think like in an episode of the Clone Wars, I want to say, where they're like taking the Padawans to get their lightsabers for the first time, they talk about how like you have a connection to like your kyber crystal through like the building of the lightsaber and all of that. So I feel like if you still had like all these like negative emotions and stuff flowing out of you, like it would still affect the crystal because it's connected to you. But that hasn't been practiced yet. We haven't seen that.
Well,
Who's
yeah.
to say?
So it's one of those things. It's an interesting concept, but we definitely strayed. I wanted to hear what was your favorite moment, and then we
Yeah.
can talk about that season 2 question because, like I said, I definitely had that on my list too.
Yes. So my favorite moment, I think it would have to be seeing Jackie and Q, that was known as the Stranger at that time, fight. Honestly, like that whole fight scene that happened in episode 4, I believe it was just super fun to watch and very surprising in some ways. If you really think about it, like, should all those Jedi have fallen to fighting this one dude? I don't know. I don't know. If they had all fought together, I guess they weren't necessarily all fighting together, but if they had all fought together, I think they could have overpowered Q. But to see Jackie step up after all the grown Jedi had fallen and died, and Jackie's just like, like her just doing her thing. Unfortunately, getting punched with some holes at the end of
Yeah,
that. But she went out like a gangster, in my opinion. I'm like, you know what? I respect Jackie. That was pretty sick. Yord, he could have stepped up a little bit. But yeah. Episode 5, or not 5. I keep thinking it's 5. Episode 4 was definitely a highlight, but seeing Jackie kind of step up, because I like Jackie as a character. She was like at the beginning, I was like not sure how to feel about her, but she definitely grew on me. And then seeing her fight Q was like, I guess if they had to end her character in that way, that was the perfect place to end it because we went out on a high note. So that was pretty cool.
that's fair. Yeah, that was a really good episode. 4 is probably still my favorite of the series, just because,
Yep.
like you said, the lightsaber fights there were insane, and like I still talk about the moment where he impaled the guy and then pulled the other person onto it. Like that was really cool to see. It felt different from a lot of other lightsaber fights that we saw. So I agree with that. But before we get out of here, that season 2 question, you were saying you were sort of asking, do I think that the story deserves a season 2? I had it written out. Do you want a season 2? And uh, I don't know if you have your answer already or not. But for me, the answer to both questions is yes. I think they laid the groundwork really well for a continued not even necessarily mystery, but just sort of a continued story. Um, Especially for people who know more of the Star Wars lore already. Some of the like just seeing that singular character tease, your mind already gets to running like, okay, well, what are you going to do here? Because the thing is, so much of Plagueis' story post the Disney acquisition is no longer canon. So
Uh,
it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to take from the existing lore that's no longer canon and canonize it, and then what are they going to twist to sort of tell their continued things and so on and so forth. Um, but even still, for someone who may not know that story or may not know the existing Star Wars canon, um, like you said earlier, it's so much outside of the realm of the Skywalker era, where it's like, yes, you know that's where it's leading into,
yeah.
but you sort of everything was told as a legend when Palpatine was talking to Anakin about it. everything was, oh, let me tell you the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. I want, he stories have said that he can do this, this, and this, and it's like, well, maybe we can get into the meat and potatoes of that, where we've already had flashbacks in this season. If we're getting into a season where he is more of a prominent character, that's how we can learn more. Going even further back through flashbacks and sort of telling the story of his life and sort of how he got to the point where he is, then it can only expand upon. So it's sort of like a roundabout way of going further into the past. But I think overall, just that I don't anticipate seeing too much of Yoda in a second season. It was definitely cool that he's going to be appraised, that it seems like the overall Jedi Council is. Um I think it'll also give you more on the how did we get here aspects, like I said, it was brought up at the beginning. um Going into more seeing the machinations of the Sith basically happening under the nose of the Jedi, and seeing how the Jedi, I guess, react to that, could make for a really interesting season 2 and even beyond. But what about you? Do you want a season 2? Do you think this deserves a season 2?
I do want a season 2 because I'm definitely curious to see more about Darth Plagueis because um, I don't know a whole lot about Darth Plagueis is a man, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
identifies as male. Yeah, I don't
I
know a lot about him. Or oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I assume so. Like no one's ever said anything otherwise. So
Mm, I was yeah. Um, I want to learn more about him, and I don't know if anybody is curious about, I guess, his origins or more so how he affects the universe. But I feel like getting to know like how you got to where you are is also an interesting idea. I don't know how far along he is in his journey where we meet him at the end of or towards the end of episode 8, but I don't know. I'd just be curious to know more about that because like you said, like a lot of what Disney has done with Star Wars has like decanonized like some of that dark place lore that I didn't know anyway to begin with. But being able to establish new lore for me to be able to digest would be cool. Especially because like in my opinion, the Sith are always cooler anyway. So like
fair.
I'm down for that. I'm down for a Sith story. Do I feel like this deserves a season 2? And that's kind of plays into my question of like, do you think Star Wars is too big to fail? I feel like I don't know. I don't know. Like I would personally like to see it, but I could also see this just being its own thing, I guess, and just existing outside of the realm of like the Skywalkers and being kind of like a landmark for stories that happen around the High Republic era. I'm also it's hard to say like where the general like watcher. I won't even say Star Wars fan because that's kind of been the Star Wars community itself has been doing some weird stuff. But just for the general audience that has been watching the show, how they necessarily perceive it, and if it's, I guess I'm just curious, like what Disney's definition of success would be with this show, because we've seen with even Halo, the Halo show that had a lot of flack, got a season 2 like almost immediately because there was conversation, not necessarily looking at the topic of whether they were saying good or bad things,
Right.
being canceled or at least no longer going to be on Paramount Plus. Who knows what happened with Velma? I just thought about that. I'm like, did that season 2 even happen? I don't remember.
Yeah, the season 2 came out. I don't know. I don't
Nobody said a damn thing.
Because I feel like with that one, with season 1, so many of the people just hate watched,
Yeah.
and
I was
so
definitely a part of that. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like with the season 2 with that one, because like you said, I haven't heard. I only know one person who saw it, and they enjoyed it. Granted, they also enjoyed season 1. It was weird, but
Well,
oh, did Joel like it? I didn't know that. No, I was talking about Bacardi. Bacardi enjoyed it.
oh,
Oh,
Joel, I think he did say he liked season 1.
oh, interesting. No, yeah, Bacardi. I think he enjoyed both seasons. I didn't watch it. I'm gonna be honest.
I feel like I liked it more as I went on, but at the beginning it was definitely like, ew, how could they do this? How
That's
could they do
fair.
this to Scooby
I
Doo?
was gonna say, yeah, I think that a majority of people who were kind of just like the "how could they do this" watchers,
Yeah,
and then just seeing more of it, I feel like they're just like, no, I saw enough. How could they do this? I'm good now. Like, I don't need to hate
yeah.
watch anymore. Um, with Star Wars, it's so interesting because it's so difficult to have an honest conversation with people.
Yeah.
Um, there are so many fans out there who are literally just immediately, oh, this isn't my Star Wars, so it's bad. Like they don't even give it a chance. That's why you get the issues of like the review bombing and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
on the flip side of that, there are so many fans who are genuinely just like, I'm going to watch just to counteract that. And because there are so many different camps like that, you don't, I feel like you can never have a nuanced conversation about Star Wars anymore. And it's the most frustrating thing ever because you never know where somebody's falling underneath that, like on that side. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like everybody who probably didn't like this series is only not liking it because it had, it was Asian and black led. Like, that's not everybody. Do I
Yeah.
think it's a good chunk of the majority? Yes. But because of that, you can't have that conversation in honesty anymore because everybody digs their heels in so much, and it's frustrating to see. So I know you were talking about sort of how the fans react. I can't look at them in this case because y'all kind of burnt it. Like,
Mhm.
y'all just hate anything, and it's just because you don't like the people that are telling these stories.
Yeah. Yeah. As I don't know, and I guess to kind of follow up on like your response, that's one of the reasons why I feel like we probably will get a season two without like a blink of an eye, pretty much. Because we're, I guess, like in a like grander perspective, just the way that our society, at least in America, like views things and interacts with things, um, there will be a very vocal minority, if not like it could be a good chunk of the people that are like consuming this media that will be like, I just wanted lightsabers, or I why are there so many women? Where are the guys? Or like things like that. But it doesn't really reflect things in terms of like how well the show is doing or the quality of the show or things like that. And so I don't know. It's gonna be difficult, I feel like, for these big corporations like Disney and Amazon and other like corporations and studios that want to create media like this, because the fact of the matter is like there are so many like white stories or white led stories or male led stories that it's honestly sometimes like the wool goes over my eyes if somebody is like, yeah, we're gonna have like X, Y, and Z person do this. I'm like, okay, cool. I feel like having else's perspective makes things like a little bit more interesting. Even if they're telling like a similar story, that doesn't mean that the same person or character is going to have those same viewpoints. And I think it's more like the viewpoints and the perspective of these characters is what makes me, I guess, uninterested, or at least this pattern of writing that people have gotten with telling certain stories. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see like what the response is to all of this with the, I feel like, more vocal outcry on like, oh, you're going woke, go broke, like DI stories, all this stuff. Um, because just making everything white male everything at the end of, no, like, nobody wants that. Even though that's what y'all are asking for, but nobody wants that. So we'll see.
Yeah, everything is basically a culture war now, and it's really
Yeah.
unfortunate because while I want to believe people have a lot more media literacy than they show, the evidence doesn't show that. So I think so many people are just blinded by this cultural war or whatever that they're willfully being ignorant to stuff. And at the end of the day, that doesn't help anybody. You just look like an idiot. And
Yeah.
we go about our day. So I don't know.
I just want to say I'm not against white males led stories or anything like that.
No, and
I'm just saying you shouldn't be against a woman led story
no,
or like
and I don't.
a person of color led. It's just
It's fair of you to say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, fair of you to say it. I didn't get that vibe from you, and I would hope that anybody who's watching it didn't. But no, I mean, women and people of color have shown for years that they can get behind a story of where the main character doesn't look like them. We've done it for multiple years. Like people wouldn't identify with 90% of the stories that they identify with if they didn't care. Like it has a person that look like them.
Yeah.
It's just a certain demographic that doesn't want to seem to do the same.
Yeah.
We can leave it at that,
Pretty much. And I don't know. That's just it's crazy.
Yeah, but I feel like we've talked at length about all of this. We went over an hour. I'm actually shocked. Where can that is true. Actually, and I'm gonna see when we cut this down. I know we talked a little bit before we started actually recording on air.
Like 10 minutes.
Okay, so we might be just at an hour.
Yeah.
But where can the people find you and what you got coming up? How that project looking? Talked about that on air, so I got to keep it going.
You can find me as Viper_Prime on Twitch and YouTube. As far as my Blender project, actually a positive update. I feel like things are going quite well. I don't want to date it. I don't know if that's well, not for my thing, but for your thing, because I know sometimes editing could be a thing. But as of now, we have like 10 days left of our challenge to try and finish an animation in a month. I do
have like a week. I think when is the 1st of August?
On a Thursday, I think.
So we'll have like a week and a half. It's gonna come out Monday.
Okay. Yeah, so I feel like as far as progress goes, I'll be able to have something very close to a finished product, but I don't think it'll be as polished as I would like it to be, which is fine.
That is.
It's much further than I've gotten in the past. I don't know how many months I've said I wanted to do something and I wasn't able to get there. So it was all preparation to lead up to this moment. And I'm happy with everything that I've been able to learn and achieve to this point. So actually positive update. Mostly positive, I guess. It won't be done, but it'll be mostly done. What about you, Didge? Where can the people find you and your project? When is it being published?
Oh, I didn't think we were gonna ask about the publishing part, but you can find me at Didge_DEE at all places. Obviously also here on the Geekset Podcast channel. Make sure you hit the bell, subscribe, like it, all that stuff, so you can keep updated with everything that we're doing Geekset wise. Head over to my channel, do the same, hit the bell. You can be notified with everything that I'll be doing personally, and you can see when this when this Unreal project is done. It should theoretically be done around the same time. Jamie and I both have went for that August 1st completion date.
Yeah.
Just to give ourselves equally a challenge.
Yeah.
I tried to find it while I was talking. I had a little graphic that I used for inspiration. Basically what it said was that you're talking about, you don't think that it's going to be a lot of, it's not going to be a completed project. Essentially, the graphic was 1.01 to the 365th power. So you do the very minimum every day. It's like, I forgot what the number was. Obviously, I can't find the graphic, but that's better than 1.0 to the 365th power, because that's still just one. And that's what we'll leave you with. So if you need a little bit of inspiration for yourselves, keep that in mind, that doing the bare minimum every day is always better than doing nothing.
Yep,
and
that's
you'll be in
right.
a better place. But until next time, until our next series, which I believe is going to be Skeleton Crew, AJ and I probably will do some other stuff in between, and Jamie is always welcome to join us. But until then, may the force be with you all.
May the force be with you.